Good scotch. Monkey shoulder, for those who are curious. What's up, YouTube? It's been a little while since I've done a video. Last one was really just me going through the High Dive catalog. That was back in January. And, I don't know, January, February maybe? I don't remember when I did that. But anyway, I have another anime themed rant for you guys. And this was the culmination of 2 catalysts. Maybe more, but 2 primary ones I can think of at the moment. And this is about what's the deal with high school or school life rom-coms. And I want to focus more on the romance and the high school realm. 2 catalysts that got me thinking about this topic. One is actually this video by Ye-Man on YouTube. He does kind of anime-related content. Japan's sad obsession with high school anime. And this came out 9 months ago, specifically October 26, 2024. I might have watched this when it came out. But I was thinking about this video. And then, like, what he said resonated with me. I'm like, oh man, yeah, there's something to it, I think. And then I've been watching the rom-com, kind of boy-girl relationship, or friendship survive. And, what's this? Oh, okay. So, in that anime in particular, I'm, on partway through episode 6. And watching it, I'm just like, part of this weird love triangle thing feels kind of Shakespearean. I don't know. I'm not super well versed in Shakespeare to say which plays I think it reminds me of. But there's definitely some. I know for sure. There's something oddly Shakespearean about the love triangle kind of thing. But I wanted to kind of delve a little deeper under this. There's a lot of anime rom-coms, for starters, and most of them take place in kind of a high school setting. And actually, Ye-Man, maybe if you're closer to him, you can call him ya boy. It's a dumb joke. What he points out in his video is, it's like, there's a lot of these rom-coms. Why? Why is there? And he talks about, he thinks it's a nostalgia factor. He's like, and it goes into Japan being an incredibly lonely country. Birth rates, are declining, have been declining for a long time in Japan. And it's like, what's the deal with that? And there's this weird nostalgia for, oh man, back in high school, those were the good old days before I was an adult. And I don't want to say every mangaka or, anime original writer, director, whatever. I don't want to say that all of them are, like, looking back on this, like, oh man, the past was better. I don't want to say, because I don't know all of them. I don't know all the individuals, so to make such a blanket claim, not quite correct, But there is something to it. There is a lot of anime rom-coms, romance animes that take place in this high school setting. And I think you can learn a decent amount about a culture by their media. Now, granted, I also know that I'm putting this caveat that I know anime is still kind of a nerd thing in Japan. Manga, as far as I understand, is a little more widespread. Like, you got all the manga magazines like Shonen Jump, and whatnot. That, so manga, the comics. I mean, even in the United States, to try to build a parallel, the United States, we have, like, the funny pages in the newspaper, for the handful of people that still get, newspapers delivered to their doors. I don't know, do the funny pages still exist in, like, digital? I don't know. If any of you guys know, please answer in the comments. But yeah, so anime, it's still kind of a more nerd, niche, more thing. It's not as mainstream as we think. I've heard from people who've traveled to Japan and been immersed in the culture a little more. Is that anime? Still more of a nerd thing. Still more of a So it's still you can't rely on it to be a media. Goodness gracious, my phone's going off. Sorry about that. So you can't rely on it to be super a big window into the culture. But it's still a window. And maybe it's at least a window into maybe a smaller part of the culture. I don't know. Yeah, I've never traveled abroad, so my scope is pretty darn limited, being in the United States. But needless to say, I've watched a lot of anime over the years. And I'm a rom-com. I love anime rom-coms. And even, look at the screen, Doma-chan is a girl. Hey, those are like school uniforms. Miss Caretaker, I don't know what this is about. My Sweet Tyrant, hey, those are school uniforms. Inugami-san to Nekoyama-san. Those are school uniforms. School uniforms. School uniforms. Let's go to the next school uniforms. At least a school uniform. This one's fantasy. Kind of looks like a school uniform. Uniform. Yeah, you get the picture. You get the picture. So what's the deal with that? And Ye-man, also known as Ya-boy, for this video, he has a point. And he says there's a nostalgia thinking that, times were better back then. But there's also this, why is there romance? Why is there romantic love a part of this? And I think maybe we can potentially see a parallel between romantic love in how it's portrayed in anime in the last decade or so, and even to maybe a point, how it's portrayed in American society and how it's been for the last decade. So I'm part of Gen Z, 25, I'm 25. And if anyone is part of my generation, or maybe part millennial, or, we understand, I think, that the dating realm is difficult to navigate. It's weird to navigate. I also have I know some people who are, like, around my parents' age, so it'd be, like Gen X. Said that the dating game is weird. And so I guess what I'm really kind of ranting and wanting to draw a picture of is, what's the deal with young romance? And I think Japan and the niche that makes manga and anime, so you're in this entertainment realm, and they like slice of life, here's kind of a life. Well, let's do like a romance thing. We have comedy, and here's the weird airs of romance, and maybe young people trying to understand romance. Because we were all young at one point, depending on who's watching this. We were all young, we were all in high school. Maybe some of you are in high school. Maybe some of you are just entering university, the college age, 18 to 20 years old or whatever. And, sometimes you're like, how do I interact with this gal? Or, if you're a gal, How do I interact with this guy? And how do we interact? How do we communicate our feelings that maybe have a romantic intent? And it's weird and it's embarrassing, maybe. And that's the big question. It's like, how do we navigate romantic feelings? How do we navigate romantic love? And there's something interesting, or I find kind of interesting. You know, a lot of Japan, or a lot of the anime, I should say. I don't want to put this all in Japan, but Japan has had a declining birth rate, and actually even the U.S. has had a declining birth rate because there's a connection between romantic love and family, and the creation of family. Granted, you know, putting my cards on the table, I'm a conservative Christian, and part of the roles of family, nuclear family, going even to even taking a step back from that, marriage is the procreation of children. Part of marriage, I believe, is making a family. And, you know, you have the birth rate problem, but I think there's a heart issue beneath that. It's not that, like, there's a reason why all of a sudden we're not making kids. You know, we're not making children. You know, we're not having families. You know, what's the deal with that? But going back to anime, so we have this media that talks about, you know, like, oh man, young love, young romantic love. What's the deal with that? How do we put this in a story? There's something about that, and I think again, seriously, go watch this video. I think he explains far better than what I'm able to do in this rant that is unscripted. And after watching anime kind of for half the day, sorry, you know, watching anime half the day, so, you know, it's a Saturday. Give me a break. But there's watching my rom-coms, and I'm like, the people who are creating the anime are focusing on this point, and they're making these stories around young people being in love, romantic love, towards each other, and all the weird, crazy things about that. And maybe the weird, you know, because young people are just so, like, they lack clarity because they're embarrassed, or I think it's embarrassment, and think, oh, maybe there's kind of a thing with, like, the guy might be like, oh, I'm gonna wait till the girl confesses, like, oh, you know, when they say they love, you know, they like me, have a crush on me, whatever, then I'll say, okay, I have that too. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like if you watch enough rom-com animes, there's that kind of, well, you know, if they confess, then I'll confess. Kaguya-sama is a very good example of that. I think I mentioned English literature and Shakespeare. This is not the first take of this video. But Shakespeare, you know, recently I watched a recording of a stage production of the Shakespeare play Much Ado About Nothing. And Benedict and Beatrice, they're the main couple of that play. I don't care what anyone says. I think most Shakespeare nerds would agree that Benedict and Beatrice are the main couple in that story. And they're tsunderes. They are such tsunderes. And then they're definitely gaslit into falling in love with each other, but I think deep down, it's like they were in love with each other to begin with. And it reminds me of Kaguya-sama. If you haven't watched Kaguya-sama, Love is War, great. Such a great anime. Watch it. If you're more of a manga person, read the manga. Manga's finished. The anime has not adapted all of the manga. Sorry, just a little parched. But yeah, watch it, read it. It's great. And Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. Benedict and Beatrice were so much the main characters. It was hilarious. It was great. But yeah, so sorry if this rant is kind of all over the place. It's very scatterbrained. I realize that, but maybe this is a good conversation starter. How am I doing on time? 15 and a half minutes. Such a rant. I'm sorry. Kind of sorry. But yeah, I think there's a problem with Japanese culture, and particularly those with the in the anime space in Japan, that they're longing for this nostalgia for being in high school, being young, and falling in love. There's something about, I think, even in the human psyche, being young and falling in love. And Japan does this in all these slice-of-life rom-com animes that are in, like school. Like I said, Tomo-chan. Here's another, My Sweet Tyrant. Again, I never watched this. I did watch Tomo-chan, and that was good. My Sweet Tyrant, never watched. Never watched Inugami to Nakoyama-san. I never watched Kimi no Todoke, although I heard that one was very good. Teasing Master Takagi-san, I mentioned earlier. I think that one's very good as well. But again, what's this underlying thing of young love? Young romantic love, I ought to say. And I don't know. There's something about that they harp on, and it's interesting. It's a theme I'm seeing, and I think part of it's like, hey, young love, romantic love. Maybe here's, I guess, my hypothesis is romantic love is a good and it's a valuable thing, and young romantic love is not invalid. And of course, I think there should be guardrails about how to navigate young or romantic love as a young person. But it's valuable. And again, this goes, I think, I'm trying to comment on why is there so many slice of life or like school life rom-coms. Why is that? Their obsession with high school anime. Maybe people are looking back, and this is kind of a thesis of this video. That's like they're looking back, and they're like, "Oh, these were better days." And he says, "Were they?" And that's fair. I mean, yeah, I also look at my own high school life with a critical lens. I'm like, were they better than? Was my life in high school better than it is today? In some sense, yes. So I guess ultimately, no, I think I'm better as an adult than as a high schooler, because I know more. I have a job and I've had to pay taxes for several years, since a high schooler. But yeah, I don't know. So just kind of a weird rant video. I'm sorry this is kind of all over the place, but I thought it'd be kind of fun. So yeah, if I am super unclear to you guys, put it in the comments. If you feel like you're following what I'm saying, also put it in the comments. If you follow what I'm saying, but you think I'm super off base, put it in the comments. I will put a link in the description of this video, and probably a comment as well, to Ye-Man's video, because I think he probably articulates it far better than I do, because I also think he wrote a script. This is super impromptu on my end. It's, goodness gracious, this video's been going on almost 20 minutes. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you made it to the end of this video, kudos to you. And then you also heard my call to subscribe if you want to. I'm not begging for it. Hopefully some different stuff coming soon on a different channel. I'll upload a thing on this channel when I start getting stuff uploaded on this other channel that I'm preparing. That's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Godspeed. Peace.